Hi, welcome to Nugget of Truth. I'm Danelia Williams Bostito. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about being comforted. The Bible in 2 Corinthians chapter 7, Paul writes, "For when we were come into Macedonia, our flesh had no rest, but we were troubled on every side. Without were fightings, within were fears." I don't know if you've ever been there. Conflict is uncomfortable. There's no rest, and that means there's no peace. And notice it wasn't just without. When those things without were coming, when people were going against Paul and Silas there in Macedonia as they tried to preach the gospel, as they tried to strengthen the brethren, people came against them. It made them uncomfortable. So outside was really threatenings to their lives. And within, they had no rest. Within were fears. We probably all have that. Any type of conflict. In fact, I hate conflict. But there's just times when you have to go through it. And inside, there's fears. But notice that next verse there in 2 Corinthians. "Nevertheless, God that comforted those that are cast down, comforted us by the coming of Titus." That word there, cast down, it means depressed or brought low or humbled. And there's two implications here, right? There's your inside depression, when your feelings are low. Then there's the outside posture of you that's low. Well, I guess there's another one too. There's a heart, a reverence toward God that lowers you, that makes you humble, makes you receptive. That's what God, when we are depressed, within our emotions are depressed, we feel depressed, we're unsure. Notice it says that God comforts the cast down. He comforts those who are depressed. And the Bible tells us several places that God is near the brokenhearted. He wants to comfort, but how he comforts sometimes is different than we might expect. You see, oftentimes we go to our distractions rather than being comforted. So we'll turn on the TV and we'll veg out for some time. Maybe we eat some comfort foods. Perhaps we play a game. Maybe we take a pill, drink a bottle, smoke something, go to a relationship that's not really good for us, not really comforting us, but distracting us from why we are depressed, why we are fearful, why we feel down. That's not God's way. You see, God wants to actually comfort us. And here we see that he sends a person to comfort in this situation. But that's not all. If you go on reading, it says, "And not by his coming only, but by the consolation wherewith he was comforted in you, when he told us your earnest desire, your mourning, your fervent mind toward me, so that I rejoice the more." He said, "I heard that you guys were praying for us. I heard that you're mindful for us. You're caring about us. You're thinking about us. You're praying." And that lifted me up. That encouraged me. That brought my soul up. A psalmist wrote, "O my soul, why art thou cast down? Hope thou in God." Have a confident expectation in God. Sometimes God will send a person. Sometimes God just lifts up our spirit by his spirit. Sometimes it's his word. Sometimes it's a text from a friend. But God always is trying to comfort us when we're cast down. The Lord never forsakes us. He never abandons us. He never leaves us alone. But sometimes we have a hard time seeing because we're caught in the unrest, the lack of peace, and so we can't see clearly and we just distract ourselves. But I challenge you to not be distracted, but to let yourself be comforted by God. It is so much better than distraction. So as you, perhaps, friend, are cast down, hope thou in God. And for you all who aren't cast down right now, that are feeling great, hey, you can be used to help someone who is cast down. Perhaps you could just send a message to someone that comes across your mind, someone you know is cast down. Or perhaps you don't even know, but just anyone on your heart. Give them a message. Let someone know you care about them. Let someone know you're praying for them. You'd be surprised how much you can comfort them by just a word. As you see, Paul was comforted knowing, wow, there's people thinking about me. And if you knew the story, you go on to read down through 2 Corinthians, these are the people who he had to rebuke. So he had to say, hey, you guys got to get some things straight. But they didn't turn their backs. They weren't all of a sudden against him, because they were mature and they understood that he was telling them the truth. And so they prayed for this man who loved them, who was going through some hard times. So whatever side you're on, whether you need to be comforted or whether you need to comfort someone else, God is pleased with that. We all have times where our flesh has no rest. But understand that God sees, God cares, and he will send comfort. May you be blessed with truth today.